Hi, I'm Libby. Let's talk about the labeling theory. What's the deal with labels anyway? Howard Becker introduced labeling as deviant behavior is behavior that people so label. I agree, because if someone is being bad, they're labeled as a bad person, whereas someone being good is labeled as a good person. Some people believe that labels can be considered harmful, but I believe with the right labels, they can be extremely helpful. First of all, people who label others don't have enough information. Labels can affect the way children perceive themselves. The way teachers label their students or students label their peers can have a lasting impact on how children think of themselves. When a child has been labeled, that label can become part of their identity. Labels often do damage by putting children in boxes. When a child is given a label, it not only affects how they see themselves, what is expected of them, and how they are treated, but it also influences who they become. In an article by National Library of Medicine, a study back in 1965 shows both negative and positive labels changed the way teachers treated students. Kids like my brother with Down syndrome are easily identifiable, whereas students with ADHD or autism are harder to spot, and therefore easier to label as weird or dumb. Secondly, children may start to believe their labels. In a BHSC article, it states the effects labeling can have upon children. For example, if a child is repeatedly called a troublemaker or questioned, "What's wrong with you?" they'll start to look at themselves as such and believe that's who they are. Students may make decisions based on their new beliefs. For example, if we are constantly told we aren't smart, we may not try as hard on a math test because we think we're going to fail. Later in life, students may decide not to get a job because they think they're not good enough. And lastly, with the right labels, students can gain an understanding. In a LinkedIn article by Antonio Theodoulou, it says we should ask ourselves how things might be different if we changed the way we went about labeling. What if someone was labeled as highly creative instead of someone with ADHD? Would things be different if they were labeled as amazing or kind? Would children start to see their education through a different lens? Labeling can be helpful because when you have the right labels, for example, if you have anxiety, then your teachers and peers can help you cope. With the right labels, students can get the support they need to succeed. With the right labels, students can have IPPs. With the right labels, teachers and students can find resources to help their kids. And with the right labels, we can better understand everybody's abilities. In conclusion, labels should never define someone's life. I think if students and teachers started to focus on students' strengths instead of their weaknesses, we wouldn't have a problem with negative labeling. Maybe instead of putting labels on people, they could just be our friends. And chances are, if you're labeling people, other people are labeling you. So, for the labeling theory, I believe labels are typically considered harmful, but with the right labels, they can be extremely helpful. Thank you. I hope you learned something from my rant.